I'm John Harding. I'm the engineering manager for our syndication team, which kind of encompasses all of our efforts to bring the YouTube experience off the YouTube website. And a key part of that, as we've been talking about, is our APIs. So, kind of give you what the big idea that we're trying to get to today is that you can take all the functionality that people have and love and use on YouTube and bring that onto your site. And so what that means is, obviously, people are used to watching videos, and you're used to being able to let people watch videos on your site with the embedded player. But now the APIs allow you to do things like search YouTube for new videos, find more relevant content through related, let users manage their own content, their favorites, their playlists, their subscriptions. And then, as Hunter mentioned, a key aspect of what we've enabled recently is the ability to let your users upload videos to YouTube through your own website instead of sending them to us. How many people have used Google Data APIs before? So pretty good, about half the audience. That's fantastic. For those of you that haven't, I'm going to do a very brief review of Google Data APIs, but if you do have more questions, I definitely recommend you stop by the Office Hours Lounge, and we can kind of walk you through some of them. And then I'll go over sort of the common technology we have within the YouTube API, and then we'll actually dive in and start talking about what specific APIs we have and what they enable you to do. So all of our Google Data APIs, they share a common protocol. They're all based off of the Atom Publishing Protocol, and they're RESTful APIs. So all of our data typically is represented. You can get different representations depending on what you like to work with. We do both Atom and RSS feeds, which are XML-based, as well as JSON. And one of the nice things is they use standard HTTP to do all the requests, which means that it works well with proxies. You've got a wide array of network stacks that you can work with. And it just uses the different HTTP methods to perform different operations. So whether you want to create, retrieve, update, or delete, those all have corresponding HTTP methods. We also, within the Google Data APIs, have a series of client libraries written in different languages, Python, PHP, Java, and .NET for the YouTube APIs right now. And these make it a little bit easier. You don't actually have to worry about XML and the wire protocol. You can deal with objects in your native language. So within the YouTube APIs, we have a couple of different types of feeds that we deal with. The most common one is a video feed, obviously because the primary content on YouTube is video. But we also have a couple other different data types that we deal with. Users can have subscriptions, so that's one type of data. Playlists as well, and then contacts, comments, and user profiles. In most cases, even subscriptions and playlists, it's pretty straightforward. But things like profiles are a little bit different type of data, so we'll talk about that later. One of the things I want to stress is that most of YouTube is about public sharing, and so most of the information that people have on YouTube is public. So things like what videos they've uploaded, what videos they've favorited. And so most of this you can get it through the APIs without any kind of authentication or login. Some of this information people may choose to make it private. So videos may be private, playlists may be private, for example. And in that case, you would require authentication. But on top of that, anytime you're going to modify any data on the site, whether that's user data or whether that's public data, you'll have to do authentication. And we'll talk about the different ways that you can deal with login and authentication later on. So what are these different types of feeds? As I said, the most common one is going to be a video feed. And this is basically just a series of videos. You can think of it as what data would I need to show that set of search results on the right. And so these are used by the vast majority of our APIs. So obviously, search results, related videos, what we call our standard feeds, which are sort of these sets of popular content. Obviously, those are all lists of videos, and so we have a video feed. But also some of the more customized data, user favorites, uploads, what they put into a playlist. All of these are the exact same type of data. And so whether you're doing search results or favorites, different use cases, same structure of data. So I'm trying to do a mix of different examples here. So I have some XML for people who like going all the way down to the wire. I also have some examples in a couple of our client libraries. So we'll try to mix up so everybody gets a little bit of what they like. What I just want to do is highlight, what the actual feeds, the content that we serve from our servers look like. And this gives you an idea both of what information we have and how it's structured. But this is also really useful when you're debugging. You can actually load up any of our feeds in the browser and just examine the XML. And so that helps you when you're debugging. So it's useful to see what it looks like. So up top, this is a standard Atom feed. It's XML. We use the Atom namespace. All of that's pretty straightforward. What we have sprinkled liberally throughout all of our feeds are related links. And so this provides a way for you to navigate from one API call to another, or from one feed to another. You can just generate the URLs on your own, but it's often useful to be able to just extract the links and navigate that way. In some cases, it's extremely important to do this, and the one that I've highlighted here is a related link for the next set of search results. So if you're retrieving search results and you want to page through a lot of content, the way our search index works is the total number of results is approximate. And so we may tell you there's some number of results, but it's not necessarily going to be exact. And so it's important to use the next and previous links for pagination to kind of sequence through those. Speaking of total results, we use the open search namespace for telling you where you are within those results. And again, that total number typically is an approximation. Beyond that, then you start getting into what information we provide with each video in the feed. And so obviously you've got some straightforward things. You've got title, you've got the uploader. But what actually gets pretty interesting is when you start digging into the entry itself. So we have a couple different categories that we use to sort of label content within YouTube. There's 3 that apply to videos. I'm going to talk about 2 of them right now. So one is keywords. This is when you upload a video, you can specify a couple different keywords for the video. We provide those with the keywords scheme. And then the actual category that this video has been assigned to, so comedy or sports or politics. As I mentioned, we get the title, you get the description, kind of the basic stuff you'd expect. And then we have more of these related links. So in this case, this is the YouTube watch page for the video, if you want to be able to navigate them to YouTube. As well as related data about the video. So if you want to see what responses we have for the video or get other related videos to it. But what you're probably interested in is how do I actually play this video back? Maybe you could direct them to our site, but you can also look in the media RSS extensions to see how do I get the embeddable player for this video. And so you can see here we've got a link to the SWIF. We tell you what the duration is. And then we actually provide a couple different formats of many of our videos. So format 5 is the embeddable flash player. So you can either look at the format to see that it's 5, or you can the MIME type and see that it's a flash content. We also provide mobile streams for our videos. And then, as I said, that media player will be the link back to our watch page. We also give you access to the thumbnails for the video. So on the site, we show one video typically for a thumbnail. But if you've uploaded videos, you see that we actually generate 3, and we allow the user to choose between those. I've only shown you one here. We actually provide you links to all the thumbnails within the feed responses. And we also have a higher quality version of some thumbnails available, which is why we tell you the time and then the size. And then we also give you the statistics that you'd expect to get, the view count, the rating, how many times it's been favorited. One of the things I also want to highlight is there are 2 different ways that we provide links to related feeds. So we've seen the standard Atom link element, but we also have a Google data extension called FeedLink. And what this allows us to do is give you a hint about what you can expect will be in that feed. So that may be either a count hint, like you see here, so you don't have to retrieve that whole feed just to get an idea of how much content is there. But it also allows us to inline insert a couple elements from that feed. So maybe you could show the first couple comments without having to fetch the entire feed. All right, so that's enough XML for a while. For those of you who don't speak of XML, the plain English version is basically everything you see up here is what we provide. You can think about it, as I said, anything you need to show that set of search results or render your own UI with all the description and data about a video. One thing I want to mention as we're going, feel free to kind of raise your hand if you've got questions. We can kind of address those as we go instead of saving them up. Yeah?
When you fetch a set of data, is the entire interface you see on YouTube available specifically for rating the video?
I'm not sure I quite follow.
So if you have a rating of, say, 1 to 5 stars,
right.
Can you port that interface to your local instance? Your local representation of it on your site or wherever?
Yeah, I mean, you can show that UI, and in fact, we give you, let's see if I can pull this back up. Within the rating tag here, like, oh, the question was, do we give you enough data to sort of present the same UI that we have on YouTube for something like rating? In fact, we actually give you, I mean, the pretty fine-grained detail about that.
Okay, great.
All right. So some of the other APIs that we have that deal with video content, search is obviously a pretty popular thing that you'll want to be able to do. So how does search work? There's an API entry point to issue a search. And we have a pretty broad array of query parameters that you can use. I've highlighted a couple of common ones here. Obviously, you want to be able to specify what search terms you're interested in. So there's a parameter to specify that. But we give you a couple different ways that you can rank your results. So you can do relevance, which is sort of our Google ranking of the video. Publish date, so if you want to focus on recent videos. View count and rating as well. And when we updated our APIs in March, we also started internationalizing the APIs as well. And so if you have users that are in a specific country, you can actually say, give me results that are tailored to that country by relevance. We also allow you to restrict results to content in a specific language. One thing I want to point out is that right now that restriction is based off of the text associated with the video rather than the spoken word. And then finally, we have format restricts. So I mentioned that we provide a couple of different formats of videos. And we allow you to say, I want to only get results that are available in a given format. So if you want to say, only show me videos that I can embed off-site, you can specify format 5, which is our embeddable format. And that will make sure that you only get videos that can be embedded. Users are allowed to, when they upload a video, some users say, I only want this to show up on YouTube. So we basically allow you to either filter those out of search results, or you can tell by looking at the response if we gave you that embeddable player or not. So a couple examples. The first thing everybody always wants to do is search for lolcats. So if that's what you're after, that first one is all you need. But I got a couple other examples there. And then we actually have a great demo on code.google.com that I wanted to bring up, which kind of is a, where did this go? Here we go. So if you go to our code site and look for our documentation, this is kind of an interactive demo that lets you experiment with, see all the different parameters that you can specify. So if I go back, sorry, I can't really read on that, that tiny monitor. But say I wanted to search for lolcats, we get a great error response, which is what we were after. So the dangers of live demo. But this kind of lets you experiment and play around with the different parameters that we have. All right. So I promised I wouldn't do any more XML for a while, so I wanted to go through an example using our Python client library of how you would actually do a search. So all of our client libraries, you actually create a service object, which is how you access the APIs. So it's pretty boilerplate. And then say we want to do a search for BYOBW. This was the San Francisco Bring Your Own Big Wheel race from a little while ago. And I want to get the popular ones. I want to see what was most viewed. So I set up my query object, run that query on the service, and I'm going to get back one of those video feeds. And so, you know, depending on what you want to do for your UI, in this case, I'm just going to grab the first thumbnail out of each entry in the title and show that to you. If we wanted to see what that would look like, that is going to be this guy here. So this is the set of search results for that Bring Your Own Big Wheel race. As I said, all that information that you need to render your UI is there. This was just a simplified UI to make the code easy. But you could provide an embeddable player, you could provide links, rating, whatever you want to do. All right, so another common operation is accessing our standard feeds. As I said, this is the list of popular content on YouTube. You can think about it as the equivalent of the videos tab that we had. So each of our standard feeds has a name, and they're accessed by name. So some common examples is, you know, if you want featured videos, if you want to see what are the most viewed or the top rated videos. What's interesting is we provide a lot of different ways that you can actually slice that data. So most of these feeds allow you to slice by time, so whether that's today, this week, this month. And one thing I always mention, just because it tends to confuse people a little bit, is those time slices mean when the video was uploaded. And so if you're saying what's top rated, It doesn't mean what got the most ratings today. It means what are the highest rated videos that were uploaded today or uploaded this week. But we also allow you to break all these down by region. So for all the countries that YouTube supports, we have a separate list of what was most discussed in France, what was top rated in Germany. And then they're also broken down by categories. You can say, well, within sports or within politics. And so you can mix and match all those different parameters, whether it's time, the feed type, the region, or the category. So for those of you that speak PHP instead of Python, again, this is sort of the equivalent. You got to instantiate the service. Accessing standard feeds is a little bit simpler. They each have their own identifier. You retrieve that feed. And then here, this is just for compactness, just printing out the title. So you can see when you use the client libraries, the code to access the service is very simple, and you don't actually have to worry about XML parsing or protocol management. The other common video feed I wanted to talk about was related videos. So basically, corresponding to that little module on the page there. Again, these are quite simple, and so the code samples get kind of shorter and shorter because there's really not that much to show. You're just going to get a series of related videos. Just tell us what video you want as the source of related, and we'll give you back that set of results. So I kind of want to do a quick demo. We've got, this is a simple App Engine site that we put together. If you wanted to check it out, it's ytapidemo.appspot. So in this case, I wanted to do a little bit different UI for displaying results. I want to show all three thumbnails, because maybe I think that gives you a better handle on what the content is there. And so let's say I wanted to search for Google I/O to see some talks from Google I/O. Or let's say, as always, lolcats. And so, basically the code for this is pretty simple. In this case, it's I have some hand-coded stuff instead of using the client libraries. But also, what I wanted to show is that you can kind of use this to combine content in your own way. So in this case, for the home page, maybe I wanted to show a couple default video selections. I've grabbed just one video each from most viewed, top rated, and featured content. And so that way when people come to this site, they get a little bit of content before they start searching or looking for their own content. So with all of that, that's not customized, that's not personalized. When people do a search, they're going to get the same results. When people look at related or those standard feeds, they get the same results. And one of the things that we've learned about the YouTube experience is that personalization is core to the YouTube experience. It's all about getting content that I want to see, or managing my videos, or sharing videos with my friends. And so we have a couple different ways that we allow people to personalize their YouTube experience. Some of these you may have used on YouTube yourself, some of them you may not. Subscriptions allow you to be notified when new videos are available, either from certain users or matching certain queries. You can use playlists and favorites to manage content that you like or that you're interested in. Obviously, you can point people at your own uploads to share your videos with them. And also, people can manage their contacts, the people that they want to share and receive videos from on the site. So subscriptions, there's a couple different things that you can do with subscriptions on the site. You can subscribe to a user's channel, such as Only Girl 15, if you want to see the new videos there. But you can also subscribe to a user's favorites, and you can subscribe to a search query. We recently added the ability to subscribe to a user's playlists on the site, and that's still to be implemented within the API. And so when you're looking at a user's subscriptions, you want to know what kind of a subscription it is. And so we actually tell you, is this a subscription to a user's channel, or is it a subscription to favorites or a query? And depending on the type of subscription, there's extra data. So you can see, well, if it's a channel subscription, who did I subscribe to? If it's a search query subscription, what was that query? And that allows you to do your own UI for displaying the subscription itself without having to try to parse out, the title of the subscription. Like if you look on our UI for the site, if it's a user, we just show the username. If it's a search query, like cookies, we put it in quotes. So it's just useful to be able to differentiate between those two. So back to XML. So we use category schemes again for subscription types to tell you what it is. So in this case, this first one is a channel subscription, and that's why there's a username that tells me what the target of the subscription is, as well as the link to the content. Again, we use those feed links so that you get an idea of how much content is available in that feed without having to fetch it up front. Alternately, I may have had a search query subscription, in which case there's a query string instead of a username. So playlists, a user may have multiple playlists that they manage on the site. You can see in the screenshot here, I've got a couple different playlists that I have. And when you're iterating over a user's playlist, there's a couple of different pieces of information that you'll get about the playlist as a whole. So every playlist has title, description, and tags, but then also just a pointer to the contents of that playlist. The contents of that playlist are basically the same as all of our other video feeds. The only thing that's different about a playlist is that it's ordered, because the user can manage the order of elements within a playlist. And so we also tell you for each entry in a playlist what the position is. It's not as useful when you're fetching it, because you're probably getting it in the default order anyway, but if you want to allow users to manage their own playlists on your site, you'd want to be able to reorder the position of elements. Other customizable feeds, we have favorites and user uploads. So if I've favorited videos on the site, a lot of people use this to keep track of content that they're interested in. But also increasingly, as we added those subscription features, people are using favorites to keep track of content that they want to share with everybody else. So instead of explicitly saying, I want to send this video to Stefan, or I want to send that video to Hunter, I can just favorite it and know that they're going to look at my favorites and see new videos as I add them. This has been actually a popular feature that some API clients have added, such as Facebook or FriendFeed, to be able to see what users have been doing on YouTube. So favorites is basically a default vanilla video feed, just a set of videos that the user has marked as favorites. When you're looking at users' upload feeds, it depends a little bit. The behavior varies depending on whether the user is logged in or not. So as I mentioned, most stuff is public on YouTube. But videos can either be marked private, they may have been taken down for some reason, or they may have failed processing, or may still be in the processing stage. So if a user is not logged in, they're only going to see the videos that are live and public when they look at somebody's uploads feed. If you've logged the user in, which we'll talk about shortly, then they'll see all of their videos. So they'll see videos that failed processing, they'll see the video they just uploaded that hasn't been processed yet, and they'll be able to see their private videos. So we'll go back to my, my not-so-pretty developer site here. So say I want to look at the videos that I've uploaded. So I can say list my uploads. And again, one of the things that I want to illustrate is since all of the data types are basically the same, it lets you reuse your UI for displaying them, because I can just have a default display a video feed UI, and so I've reused that within here. And so whether I'm listing my uploads or my favorites, the only real difference is, you know, which service call did I make when I told it which feed I wanted to retrieve. So if we were to look at the code, again, this is getting pretty simple. You know, basically, you know, 1 line, 2 lines. You can see there's not much difference between fetching a user's favorites or fetching a user's uploads. One of the things I want to kind of insert a brief note about is we offer a couple different projections within the API. These projections allow you to give us some information about what content you're interested in, as well as what you're expecting to do with the content. So right now we have 3 different APIs, or sorry, 3 different projections. The first one, and is probably the most common, is our API projection. And this basically gives you all the data that we have available for the content. Typically uses plain text instead of HTML, so it's a little more compact and a little bit easier for you to parse out, like the description, for example. Our base projection is a little more relevant if you're trying to build something like a feed reader. Like you can take any of our APIs, you know, load it up in a feed reader, and it is a standard feed, it will parse and display. And those responses have HTML content in them, so it's a little more appropriate if you're going to just take it and not parse out the response itself. And then finally, we have a mobile projection that is targeted for mobile devices. So if you're building something that's going to run on mobile, these are a little bit smaller, a little more compact to serve faster over slow connections. And then the streaming URLs for the mobile formats are there, and they're optimized for use by mobile devices. So I've mentioned a couple times about authentication. And so the first question you may ask is, well, it's going to be a little bit of extra work. Why do I actually need users to log in? So the 2 main reasons: if you want to get access to any private information, the user is going to have to log in. So if they want to be able to see their private videos or their private playlists, they'll have to log in. but also if they want to see their inbox, videos that people have shared with them, or if they want to be able to manage their content as it's being processed. Again, you have to be logged in to do that. But also it's required for all write operations. So anything you want to do that's going to modify data, you have to have a user and they have to be logged in. We have two different mechanisms for login. How many people here are primarily interested in building web applications? Okay, how many people are building PC applications or consumer electronics devices? So a little bit smaller. So most of you are doing web applications. AuthSub is what you'll use for a web application. The way this works is that users will actually go and they'll log in on a Google-hosted web page, and then we'll redirect them back to your site with a token you can use to operate on their behalf. The nice thing about this is that since the user sees that they're logging in on a Google web page, they don't have any concerns about giving credentials out because they know that they're giving their credentials to Google. Yes?
Is there any plan to support OAuth?
The question is there any plan to support OAuth? Most of the Google Data APIs already do. The challenge that we have with the YouTube API is that we have different account types. People can log in with a Google account or they can log in with a YouTube account. And so we do plan to support it, but it's taking us a little bit longer because we have to support it across both account types. That's an excellent question. The other form of login that we support right now is client login. And so this is for scenarios where you don't have a web browser that can be directed to our Google login page. So in this case, the user will enter their credentials directly into your application. You'll make a login request, and again, you get back a token that you can use to act as that user. But the key here is that the token you get back is a temporary token. And so this will expire periodically, and in some cases unpredictably. And the reason is that we don't have the ability to manage those tokens with client login. With AuthSub, the user can go and after the fact revoke access, which is something you need to be prepared for. But it gives the user confidence that their credentials only go to Google and they can manage the application's access after the fact. Since they can't do that with client login, those tokens are temporary. So with AuthSub, because the browser is bouncing around and you've got some server-to-server calls, you've got some client to us and redirect, I want to kind of step through step-by-step how it works. How many of you are familiar with AuthSub or OAuth, which works quite similarly? Okay, a couple people. So this will be fairly new to most of you. The way you start out with AuthSub is you'll send the user's browser to a Google login page to request access. And so what you'll need to pass us is what URL should we redirect them back to when we're done? What is the scope of APIs that you're interested in? For YouTube, that's gdata.youtube.com. And then two parameters depending on how you're going to be using the AuthSub token. So session tells us whether or not you're going to do a one-time request. If you only have a single API call to make, you can just do a regular token. But you're probably going to want to have multiple API calls, in which case you need to get a session token that will be permanent. The secure parameter allows you to actually register your application with Google and sign all of your requests, which will be more secure. It's harder for people to snoop that token and abuse it. And when you do a secure AuthSub and you've registered your app with Google, we present a UI to the user that makes it clear that this is more secure. So you can start out, you don't have to register, you don't have to sign to get this working, but we encourage you to do so because it's more secure for the end user. Once that initial UI comes up, the user will log in. They'll get the question of, do you want to allow your web app access? And once they say yes, we'll redirect them back to your site, and we'll put a token parameter in the URL that we send them to. Now, whether or not you're doing a permanent AuthSub token or a one-time AuthSub token, this one is only good for one request. So if you're doing one time, you can just use that with your next API call, and you're done. But if you want a permanent session token, you want to send that back to us and say, I want to turn this into a session token, and we'll give you back a permanent token that you then would store. So users, you can only have a certain number of AuthSub tokens per site, and so it's important that if you do generate a permanent session token, you want to store that in a secure way associated with your user instead of requesting a new one every time they come back to your site. And what you do from then on is you just pass that authorization token to us when you're making API requests. So once you've logged the user in, you're now able to perform write operations. So obviously you can create new entries, you can update data, and you can also delete data. And so it's important to make sure that whatever UI you're presenting is consistent with what the user is expecting you to do. You know, the user has granted you permission to act on their behalf, so don't be careful and treat their data sensitively. As I said, all these write operations will require a user authorization token. For the YouTube API specifically, we actually ask you to register your application with us so that we can keep track of what applications are out there, what's popular, what people are using, but also be able to keep track of something if something goes wrong or if there's a problem with your application, allow us to contact you and work to resolve the situation. So if you go to code.google.com, we have a link there to where you can register your application. So once you've done that, with every request that you do that needs to perform a write, you'll send us the user's authorization token, as well as your dev key and the client identifier we assign you. So this is kind of showing you the HTTP header view. Again, the client libraries make a lot of the managing of that state much easier. What's probably most common for doing writes is posts. People want to create a new entry. They want to upload a video. They want to add a favorite. They want to insert a video into a playlist. So most of these cases, you're going to do a post to create a new entry in a feed. And again, you can either generate the URL that you're posting to, or in all of our feed responses, once you're logged in and sending us a developer key, we'll actually give you those related links saying, if you want to create a new entry in this playlist, post to this feed. If you want to upload a new video, post to this feed. One thing I want to highlight is we do have a couple feeds that are write only, which is a little bit unusual until you think about it. When you're doing ratings, we don't actually keep track of every single rating that every user has made and expose that. So when you're rating, that's a write only feed. Similarly, complaints. When you flag a video as saying, I think this violates YouTube's terms of service, or I think this is inappropriate content, we allow you to write those so that users can flag videos from your site, but we don't allow you to read them back. So an example, say this is what an actual adding of a favorite would look like on the wire. And so you can see there's not actually too much involved in doing these write operations. One thing I want to stress, or there's two things I want to point out here. The first is if you see in that URL up there, I'm posting to /user/default. So once the user's logged in, there's no need for you to tell us what user you're acting on behalf of. We can identify that from the authorization token. So you can use default, and that just simplifies your code. You don't have to substitute the username in all of the API requests that you make. You can see I pass in the developer key, the client ID, and the authorization token, like I was told, and then the actual entry that I'm adding into the user's favorite feed. One thing I want to highlight, if you're doing the client libraries, this is pretty, it's kind of the default behavior, but if you are working with XML directly, it's important that you maintain all of the entries, all the tags that you may have gotten in an entry when you read, and then when you post it back to us. So there may be a new tag that you're not aware of that we add to the API, and you need to make sure that unknown tags in the XML you pass through back to us. If you're doing the client libraries, it's not really an issue. So again, for those of you who prefer a higher level language than XML, again, I'm grabbing my YouTube service within the client library. And now I need to worry about, is the user on my site logged in or not? So I would have that persistent association between my user and the AuthSub token that they granted. If they're not logged in, if they haven't given me permission to act on their account, I'm going to generate an AuthSub link to send them to so they can go through and give permission, and they'll send them back to my site. But assuming that I do have the AuthSub token set up, I'm going to tell the YouTube service my developer key, my client ID, and the user's AuthSub token. And this video happens to be our Google I/O talk about the APIs. So say I want to add that to the user's favorite every time they load up my page. Get that video ID, I'm going to fetch it, and then I'll immediately post that back into the favorites feed. And this is where I was saying you don't need to worry when you're using the client library about maintaining data, because you're going to fetch the entire entry for the video and then post it back. So the last thing I want to talk about is upload. There's quite a lot involved with upload, which is why it got saved for last. So we have, it's kind of like how we have two models for login, depending on whether or not there's a browser. We have two models for upload, depending on whether or not the user is using a web browser. So if you have an application such as Spore, where there isn't a web browser running, we have what we call direct upload. So the application has the video already, it's going to upload it straight to our APIs. This also can be used for web applications if either you want to have your own copy of the video, or perhaps you have a web application that is generating the video itself. Something like Animoto, which generates a video slideshow. They generate the video on their server, and so they'll send it directly to us. But we also offer what we call browser upload. And this allows your web app to control all the metadata that's associated with the video, but the user will upload the video directly to YouTube. So you don't have to worry about having servers that can handle, hundreds, thousands of users uploading video to you just so that you can turn around and send it back to our servers. When you're uploading with the API, we actually give you access to an extra set of information. So this is that third category on video entries that I alluded to earlier. We have what we call developer tags, and this allows you to specify your own tags that are associated with the video as the API developer. And these are visible only to you, and they're pretty much free-form text that you can use however you want. So you can define your own taxonomy that allows you to organize your uploads, the uploads that happen through your use of the API. You can see in this example here, maybe I want to associate the user account on my site with these videos so I can keep track of that, as well as maybe I have my own labeling system for these videos. So I want to flag this was just a test upload. So if you're doing a direct upload, you'll again just do a regular Atom Publishing Protocol post to the user's upload feeds. Since there's metadata and a video, this happens to be a multi-part post. So I'll post first the XML entry, and then the binary data as a second post of the file. One thing I point out, we use the slug header just to specify what the file name was. Browser upload, kind of like AuthSub, is a little bit more complex because there's three entities involved. There's our servers, your web application server, and the user's browser. So I want to kind of step through the flow step by step. So the first phase is, however you're doing your UI, you'll negotiate with the user about what the metadata is. So you can allow them to specify the metadata themselves. You can automatically generate the metadata for them, or you can have them specify the metadata and then perhaps inject your own. Like Hunter mentioned, a lot of our API users, they'll tag into the description, the URL of their website where the application occurred. And that way, if users discover this video on youtube.com, they can go back to your site to see where it came from. Either way, eventually you've got the metadata that you want to have associated with this video. And so you'll take that metadata, maybe you'll add your own developer tags so that you can organize these videos within your site. You'll post all of that to us, and we'll give you back the URL that the upload should go to, as well as a secure token that you can send to the user that they'll pass to us with the upload. So this is how we make sure that whatever metadata you associate with the video stays intact, even though the user will eventually upload it back to us. So you'll take that URL target, and you'll take that token, and you'll present a standard web form to your user with a file upload. And the user is going to submit that directly to our API servers. And so the large file only has to come to us. Once we finish processing that upload, we'll send a redirect back to the user where they'll go back to your site. And we'll, again, inject some parameters into that redirect URL to say what the video ID was, what the status was, whether it was successful or not, so that you can then present the right UI on your site. So I kind of want to walk through how this actually works in practice. Let me switch over here. So Hunter mentioned earlier Dogbook, which is a Facebook application that allows people to, have a social network for their dogs. So say I want to upload a video of my dogs. I'm going to go here. I'm going to say my dog Deuce at the beach. And in this case, I'm going to say, I want to upload the video now. So in this case, they're going to say, well, I need to operate on behalf of this user, so this is what the AuthSub flow looks like. In this case, they haven't registered themselves as a secure application, which is why you get this red box saying they haven't registered themselves as a secure application. You can also see that in their case, they're only doing a one-time request. I can't read, but that should say in there it's a one-time request. Since they're just doing a single upload, they only need to make one API call, and they can do that one-time request. So I'm going to say, yep, I want to allow them access to my account. And AuthSub will send back to their site. And now I just pick the video I want to upload, which, let me pull this up. So you can see I'm working through the file picker, and I'm going to pick a small video, so this will hopefully upload a little bit quicker. And I'll say upload. Now, if you look down at the status bar, I don't know how well that shows, you can see they're uploading this video directly to us. So Dogbook is not involved. They don't have to worry about all the bandwidth costs of video coming in and out of their system. And you can see now we're waiting. So the video has been sent. The API servers are now processing this. And pretty shortly here, we're getting redirected back to Dogbook, saying that the application or the upload was complete. And if we scroll down, oh, you can see this is the new video. This is one I uploaded earlier. When a video gets uploaded, it takes a little while to be processed, so there isn't a thumbnail yet. But since I was logged in, Dogbook can see there is this video that's there. So they can see the video still in progress. If I were to flip over to the list of my videos here and refresh, you'll see this new Dogbook video got added. And you can see that they injected Dogbook Movie into the title so that they can maintain some of their branding with the video. So we'll come back in a moment and I'll show you that it actually did upload and process successfully. We'll give it a minute to go.
Is there any mechanism for checking the status of that upload? Say if it's a 20 meg upload, it might take a while on a slow connection.
So the question was, is there a way of checking on the status of an upload? When you're doing the browser form post, since the browser actually has to navigate the page to do it, there's no way within the page to see the status. One of the things that we're investigating is how can we make it easier to do the same mechanism, but within something like Flash that does allow you to monitor a file post as it's going on. So kind of want to walk through, like, look at what's actually going on the wire in order for all that flow to go through. So I'm kind of skipping ahead to step 3. We've already got the metadata. And they're going to post to one of our APIs to say, get me an upload token that I can hand to the user to perform the upload. So they'll pass in, the standard entry data, the metadata, the description, and as well as perhaps some developer tags to say what user ID this was. And our response is going to tell them, okay, here's the URL that upload should go to, and here's that encrypted token I was referring to that allows us to securely trust the metadata as it comes back from the user. I can then just display this as a standard web form. The next URL is the URL on my site I want the user to come back to when the upload is done. The action, the action up here is that URL that came back in the token response, and then I can inject a hidden input with that token. And then once the user is done with the submission, it'll come back to my site, and you can see we'll give them what the video ID was, as well as what the status of the video was. So 200 means successful.
That's not a standard form attributes. The next URL.
Actually, yeah. This is part of the action. This isn't a form attribute. So the target of the post.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I had to break it over a couple different lines. Yeah, sorry, it's just a formatting. That's the problem with trying to putting code in PowerPoint never works that well. All right. So one of the things you mentioned, you asked about checking the status of the video as it's being uploaded, but it's important to check for the status of the video after it's uploaded as well. As I mentioned, it takes us a little while to process the video, get thumbnails generated, transcode the video. And since this video isn't public because it's not live, only the user that's logged in can see videos that are still being processed. Since we gave you the video ID of the video when the upload completed, you can actually do a request for just that one specific video and check on the status of it. So if the video is not actually live, you're going to see this Atom draft tag saying this is still a draft. And then we give you detail about what's actually going on with the video. So it might be processing. It could be rejected. For example, if it was a duplicate upload, those will get rejected. Or it may fail processing for some reason. In a lot of cases, the videos that fail aren't actually video files that get uploaded. The other thing I want to stress is, you may do this when you're checking on the result of a video you uploaded. But if you're showing the full list of a user's uploads, it's also a good idea to look for these draft tags so that you can differentiate in your UI videos that are live versus videos that are not. Yes, and back.
Is there a way to set up a callback for when the upload finishes? Do you actually run polling and see the status of it?
The question is if there's a way to set up a callback for when the upload is complete. Not right now, but that's something that we've been looking into. Just in general, having a notification system for when things change. Okay. So say I've uploaded a video, I've checked to make sure that it's live, and maybe I uploaded some of those associated developer tags with it when I uploaded it. The way that you search, because these are just a standard category, is you use the standard Google Data category syntax for searching within a category of videos. In this case, I say I want to use the developer tag schema and show me videos that have that string associated with them. And so this way I could say, show me the videos that John uploaded through my API. One of the things I want to point out, might be obvious, but since the developer keys are only, or the developer tags are only available to you, the API developer, you have to use your developer key when you make this request so we know who you are and what developer tag to look for. So let's go back and see if my video is done being processed. So you can see here, on the YouTube UI, we differentiate. You can see that the thumbnail isn't yet generated. So it looks like we're taking a little bit of time to get this video processed. So we'll come back and check on it again in a moment.
Is there a limit to the number of videos that an account can host?
The question is there a limit to the number of videos an account can host? The answer is yes. Right now, if you're uploading videos through the API, we have a limit of 2,000 videos. The reason we do this is YouTube is about users sharing their video and with the community. And so we do this to make sure that videos are being uploaded to a user's account rather than having one account for an entire site and all the videos being uploaded to a single account.
So in the case here with the dogs, people are expected to pretty much upload to their own YouTube accounts, so, as opposed to that one centralized place.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so like in Dogbook, I go and I granted access to upload the video to my personal YouTube account. And so that's why we have the developer tags, so that the developer can say, show me all the videos that I uploaded as a website, but while keeping the videos in the user account so that the user owns those videos. And so it kind of lets both people manage that state.
Is it possible to automatically register them on the fly through the API so that it's kind of a seamless process?
Right. So the question is, can you register users on the fly through the API? Not at the moment. Again, that's something that we're looking into. Kind of the way the way that we're looking at this is when you would make that AuthSub request. If you're not logged in, you'll get a login UI to say log in with your account. What we want to do is make it so you can actually create an account at that time if you don't have one, and then authorize at the same time, and then go back to your site. So it's not possible now, but that's something that we're working on. So I want to show you an example. We don't have a good third-party site that's doing these, using these developer tags, but I want to kind of illustrate how this can be done. So one feature I can do with these developer tags is say, just show me every video that's been uploaded through with my developer key. So in this case, this is just a demo site. I only have a couple videos. So this is all the videos that have been uploaded through this site. I can also say, say I want to do a search. Maybe I say test, right? So this will show me all the test videos on YouTube. But I want to do this just focusing on my site. So I'll say restrict to that my developer tag category. And you'll see I'll only get the results that were uploaded through my site. Or I can even go one step further and say, what are the videos that my user, John, on my site, uploaded through my API. You can see that in this case, there's only one video that I uploaded with this account through this site. Let's go back while we're here and check on my Dogbook video. And it looks like we're a little slow today. So unfortunately, this video is still being processed, but if we come back later, I'll prove that it really did work. And so with that, I actually just want to point you at a couple references. Code.google.com is sort of the home for all of Google data APIs, and our YouTube API documentation is on there. And we also have a Google group that's staffed by our wonderful developer operations team and trying to make sure that everybody plays nicely and gets their questions answered. And then with that, I want to open up if there are further questions. Yes, and back.
Question on the search API.
Yeah.
I saw that the max results is 50 per page.
Right.
Also a cap on how many results you can get while editing.
Yeah, the question is there a cap on the total number of results that you can retrieve? The answer is yes. The most you can get to is 1,000. Yes?
Could you put the references back up here?
Yeah, sorry. All right, if there's nothing else, then it's actually time for the lunch break. So all of our staff, our lunch is going to be served out on the back patio. We've got a barbecue set up for you. The staff will be out there, so if you've got questions and you want to ask somebody, find people in the gray Powered by YouTube shirt. And then we're going to be back here at 1 o'clock to resume the sessions. Thank you.